Good evening, class, and welcome to performance management class this evening. The last time we had our class, I gave out an assignment, about 6 of them, and we shall now look at these assignments and see what we can glean from them. All right, so we will be taking a few of these assignments on limiting factor so that we can understand that topic very well. So for now, I want to be taking the question number 1 question. I want us to get familiar with the topic before we answer a question number 1 type of question. Okay, so now before we talk about limiting factor questions, I would like us to get the steps to solving limiting factor question. 1, there must be only one limiting factor, which is not sales demand. So it could be any other thing apart from sales demand. And it will be only one limiting factor, but there will be more than one products that are using the limiting factor. The first thing to do is to identify what the contribution per unit is for each of the products being produced. The second thing is to identify the limiting factor that affects the production. The third is to calculate your limiting, limiting factor per unit. The limiting factor per unit should be known. Then the fourth one is to calculate your contribution per limiting factor per unit. Then the fifth is to rank your production based on the limiting factor, contribution per limiting factor per unit. And the next, which is the last, is to produce a schedule for optimal production. Now let's look at this question here, May 2018, question number 5. This is limiting factor and optimal production plan. So this is what we are about to do now, this particular question. So let's do that now. That's May 2018, question 5. So we start May 2018, question 5. This ICAN. May 2018, question 5. That is what we are solving today. All right, so now let's look at the question. Now the question is Classic Wares PLC. So the name of the company is Classic Wares PLC. This is the company's name, Classic Wares PLC. Manufactures 3 unique jeans. So there are 3 products here for which maximum revenue. So maximum revenue is the aim for the year is estimated as follows. Okay. Mr. Nduka, We'll talk about that one in privately, the one you are asking me now online. We'll talk about that privately. Let's not affect this class with last class work. All right. Classic Wear PLC manufactures three unique jeans. There are three unique jeans, and we want maximum revenue for the coming year. Maximum, for which the maximum revenue for the coming year is estimated as follows. So it means here that this is revenue. So all these are revenue. These are revenue. All right. These are revenue. So the next thing here is summarized unit cost. So I will emphasize on unit cost. These are unit costs, or we can call it cost per unit. Cost per unit. So the things that you do here, these are direct material costs. Material costs are always variable. We have variable costs. Of course, this other variable cost is inclusive of labor and other things. Then we have fixed costs, then total costs for the three items. The allocation of fixed costs, the allocation of fixed costs, which is this here, was derived from last year's production level, and it may be reviewed if current plans are different. So this cost here was derived from last year's production level. We're not giving last year's production level, and we have not seen any reason why we are going to review it. They said if current plans are different. Now look at the selling prices. So I'll come here and indicate that these are costs per unit. Why these are selling price per unit. All right. So we have cost per unit, selling price per unit, we have sales revenue. Okay. Now the products are processed on sewing machines housed in a block in a building of 3 blocks. So these are processed in sewing machine that is housed in a building of 3 blocks. Now the first block is block A, contains type 1 machine. So block A contains type 1 machine, which has an estimated maximum of 19,600 machine hours in the forthcoming year, with the fixed overhead of 980,000 per annum. Now, block B contains type 2 machine, of which 10,000 machine hours are estimated in the forthcoming year, with a fixed overhead of 750 per annum. Block C also contains type 2 machine, which has an estimate of 8,000 machine hours available in the forthcoming year. The fixed overhead cost of 370 is estimated for block C. The required machine hours for 1 unit. So these are machine hours per unit. So you can call this one machine hours per unit. So it means here that in machine type 1, you have 2 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours to make each of these. In machine type 2, we have 3 hours, 6 hours, and 2 hours. Now, the first thing here to do is you have to determine, you are required to, one, determine the optimal production plan which Classic Wares Limited should adopt. Then we have to calculate the total profit that will be made if the production plan in this here will be adopted. Now we'll be doing the two in one, and we will indicate where is A and where is B. So the first thing we will do here, we want to get the optimal production plan which Classic Wares Limited should adopt. So we will start. So this is Classic Wares Limited. Our aim here is optimal production plan to adopt. Now this is our aim. Now the first thing to do here is to follow these steps. Contribution per unit. How do we get contribution per unit? So our first step is to get contribution per unit. How do we get contribution per unit? So I will first of all bring the names of this trouser, jacket, and skirt. Yes, trousers, jacket, and skirts. So let me start here. This is skirt. This is skirt. This is jacket. And this is trousers. Trousers, jacket, and skirt. All right. So we are supposed to get contribution per unit. So contribution per unit. How do we get our contribution per unit? Our contribution is supposed to be selling price. So contribution is selling price minus variable costs. Okay? So we'll start by doing that. I will say selling price minus variable cost. So I will start selling price, or let me write it in full. Selling price, we have them here as 2332 2480. So of course, this is in Naira. Selling price is in Naira. Then we have material cost, and I will say less material costs, going to be in Naira. So let's look at the material cost for each of them. 1,900, 700. So this is 1,000. This is 900. And this is 700. The next thing is variable costs. I'll say minus variable costs. It's also going to be in Naira. 800, 16, and 1,000. 800, 16, 1,000. 800, 16, 1,000. Okay, so we'll now bring our calculator here. 2,300 minus 1,000 minus 800. That gives me 500 here. So I'll write 500. Then I'll do the next calculation. 3,200 minus 900 minus 1,600. And that gives me 700. And I'll put my 700 here. Then the last one, I will say 2,480 minus 700 minus 1,000. And that will give me 780. 780. So this is our contribution per unit. Now we've gotten this. The next thing to do is to identify the next thing is to identify the limiting factor. Identify limiting factor. I will now say machine type 1 or 2. We don't know which. So we'll test them now. Now this is machine type 1. So let's test machine type 1. So how do we test machine type 1? Required hours. We'll go again. We see that machine type 1 is only used for block A. It's only used for block A. That's not a problem. But look at machine type 1. Look at the required hours per unit. So we have 2, 4, and 6. 2, 4, and 6. So I will say required hours. This is 2. This is 4. And this is 6. So 2 hours for 1 unit. 4 hours for 1 unit. 6 hours for 1 unit. The next thing is total units produced. Total units demanded. Total units demanded. There is nowhere we are giving this total units. This is price. There is no units here. These are cost prices. These are revenues. So the problem is now, how do we determine units? So, but there is a way we can determine units. This is the formula we're going to use. We'll say equal to revenue divided by selling price. So what it means here is, I'm still seeing a question. Okay, yeah, very good. Revenue divided by selling price. Thank you, Joy. So if you know your selling price, normally you multiply by a number of units to get revenue. Now you know your revenue and selling price, you don't know your units. So divide your revenue by your selling price, you will get your units. So let's do that. What's our revenue? Revenue here for trousers is 2,875,000. So we'll take that 2,875,000. Put this one like this, 2,875,000. Then for this other one jacket, 4,800,000. Then the last one is 6,200,000. 4,800,000, 6,200,000. I need to give this one enough space to work. 6,200,000. Then we have our revenue now going to be divided by our selling price. Our selling price here is, we have the selling price before here, 2,332, 2,480. This is 2,480. This is 2,3, and this is 3,2. Let's confirm. Yes. Then when we do the division here, we are going to get these answers. So let's do it. 2,875,000 divided by 2,300. Now that gives me 1,250. So this is 1,250. This is in units. This is in hours. This is in units. We have again 4,800,000 like this, 4,800,000 divided by 3,2. That will give me 1,500 hours. 1,500 hours. And here, the last one, 6,200,000 divided by 2,480. That will give me 2,500. So we have 2,500. Now that we have our units and the hours, you will now say total hours required. Total hours required. You will now multiply this multiplied by this. So you are going to multiply this multiplied by this. So you have your answer here. So let me just say hours multiplied by units. So we have 2. Okay, since I have 25 here, let me do the last one. 25 multiplied by 6 will give me 15,000. 15,000. I'll do the first one, or I'll do the second one. Let me be coming from back. 4 multiplied by 15, that will give me 6,000. That will give me 6,000. Then we have 2 multiplied by 1,250. We have 2,500. 2,500. Now, when you add all of these together, 2,500 plus 6,000 plus 15,000, you have 23,500. So I will now say this is 23,500 hours. Then we will now say available hours. Available hours. You will go to the question to see how many hours is available. 19,600. 19,600 hours is available. So this is what you require. This is what is available, and you have a shortage. You have a shortage. This 19,600. So 3,900 is short. 3,900 hours short. Or say shortage. So this makes machine type 1 to be our um scarce resource or limiting factor. Now in the exam, once you have done and identify a shortage, there is no need to test the second one, because in exam purposes, it's only one that will give you shortage. But for real life purposes, you need to test all of them to ensure that there are only one shortage. Now it is possible you can have two shortage. Yes, but which of these shortage is higher? The one whose shortage is higher is going to be the limiting factor. But in the exam, you won't be given more than one limiting factor. So, but for the sake of learning, let us do the second one, machine type B, machine type 2, just for the sake of learning. Maybe because you might be surprised that maybe when you do machine type 1, it's not the limiting factor. You have three things to test. You need to test all. But in the exam, once I've tested that machine type 1 not the limiting factor, I will just assume machine type 2 is the limiting factor. Or if I do it that machine type 1 is the limiting factor, I will not need to test the second one for the sake of time. But for this lecture, we are going to do the 2. Machine type 2. So we still have our we have 3, 6, and 2 hours per unit. 3, 6, and 2. So we have hours per unit. We have 3, 6, and 2. I put it too much up. Somebody is still asking, how do we ascertain that machine 1 is not the limiting factor? I said in exam, you will be given only one limiting factor. And so if you've tested that machine type 1 has shortage, for the sake of time, there is only one that is going to give you shortage. And if you see it in machine type 1, you thank God that you don't need to start testing the others. The number of hours or the minutes we spend testing one is the same thing we'll be using to test the other ones, and you will not get shortage. But assuming that it is the last one that you test that is the shortage, you need to test everything. But common sense will tell me that if I have 3 and I have done 2, and 2 of them is not short, I will just automatically assume the last one is going to be short, because I know this is a limiting factor question. Except if it's not a limiting factor question. But if they're asking you which machine is the limiting factor, that means there must be one. So anytime you are doing and you get a shortage, you can stop there and say that is the limiting factor. But for the sake of learning, we are going to do all of them to see which one of them is limiting factor. The thing I just told you is for time's sake in the exam. So, all right, so we've done the hours. We said 2, 6, and 4. Is it 2, 6, 4? 3, 6, and 2. 3, 6, and 2. So this is 3, 6, and 2. Then we have units required. It's still the same units we are going to be using. All of them is still the same units. So we have the units here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 50. What did I do? This 1, 2, 50. 1, 5. I need to write this thing well. So here is 1, 2, 50. 1, 5, and 2, 5. 1, 2, 50. 1, 5. Is it 1, 5 or 2, 5? 1, 5, and 2, 5. Multiply them. We have as required. So 1, 2, 50. 3 times 1, 2, 50. And that gives me 3, 7, 50. 3, 7, 50. Here, 6 times 1, 5 is 9,000. 6 times 1, 5, that's 9,000. Then 2, 5 times 2 is 5,000. So when we add them together, we are having 9,000 is in my calculator, plus 5,000, plus 3,750. That gives me 17,750. 17,750 hours. Then available hours. Available hours We are using it for block B and block C. 10,000 plus 18,000. 10,000 plus 8,000. We have 10,000 plus 8,000, which gives me 18,000 hours. So the difference here is 250 hours surplus. So we have a surplus. We have available hours 18, and it requires 17 hours 250. So it means that machine 1 is the limiting factor. We have identified the limiting factor. We have identified the limiting factor. All right. So the next thing to do is to calculate our contribution per limiting factor, because we've done contribution per unit. We have identified the machine hour, which is the limiting factor, and we already know the limiting factor per unit, 2, 4, and 6. So we need to do contribution per limiting factor. So I'll come here. What are the names of the trousers, jacket, and skirt? Trouser, jacket, and skirt. Then I have contribution per unit. This is in naira. We've calculated that. 500, 700, and 780. Then you will say machine 1 hours per unit. This is in hours. So this is the limiting factor per unit, 2, 4, and 6. So this is 2, 4, and 6. So you are going to divide to get contribution per machine 1 hours, which is like contribution per limiting factor. So this is where we'll do that. So of course, 500 divided by 2 will give me 250. 700 divided by 4 should give me 250 or so. 700 or 125 or so divided by 4. Oh, 175 should give me 175. Then 780 divided by 6 should give me 130. 130. Okay. All right. So looking at this, we will now need to do ranking. Ranking based on contribution per limiting factor. Normally, if we are ranking based on just contribution per unit, this 780 would have been ranking first, followed by jacket, which is 700, and followed by trouser. But now the opposite is the case when we are ranking based on these last figures we have here. And so this now will become first. This will now become second. And this will become third. Our production plan is going to focus on trousers first. And when we have satisfied all of trousers, we enter jackets. And anywhere we can stop, that's fine. If we can satisfy all of trousers and jacket, that's fine. But we know that skirt will be severely limited. So what you will now do here is optimal production plan. Optimal production plan. So you will now bring your trousers, jackets, and skirts. Isn't it? So that's what we are going to be doing. So I'll do it the other way around. Optimal production plan. The first thing to do here is not to arrange it this way. First thing to do is you bring your rank. We build our rank. Our rank here is first. Okay, sorry. This is where I'll do it. Rank, we have first, second, and third. Sorry, they're supposed to put them here so that I'll get more space. Let me say rank, first, second, and third. So you will now say product. This is trouser, jacket, and skirt. Okay, so you will now, this is units. So the first unit here, how many units are we going to produce? Okay, we did it in our calculation here. 1,250. 1,250. 1,250. Let me just write all the units now, but normally you should be writing them with pencil for now. This is 1,5. This is 2,5. This is 1,5. This is 2,5. We might need to adjust some of these. Then this is hours per unit. So the hours per unit here, okay, hours per limiting factor, that is hours per unit, machine 1. And I'll write machine 1. Hours per unit, machine 1. And I'll write here 2, 4, and 6. 2, 4, and 6. Then I will say total hours. So this multiplied by 2, 2 multiplied by 1,250 will give me 2,500. Normally we want to achieve how many hours which is required or which is available. What is available here is 19,600. We cannot do above this, 19,600. So I'll put that here, 19,600. I've gotten 2,500 up. So let's see, that means that the whole of 1,250 units can be produced. Then for the jacket, 15 multiplied by 4, let's see, 15 multiplied by 4 should give me 6,000. So 6,000, which we have here, if we are to add it to 25, it will be giving us 8,005. So it's even not enough. So I'll put my 6,000. So that's also, it means that this one can be done. This can be done. If we are to look at 2,500 multiplied by 6 is going to give me 15,000. Already we have 8,500, right? 8,500. If you have to add this 8,500, you know it's going to exceed this, right? So it means that we can no longer do everything here. What we need to do here is to find a balancing figure. So I'll come here and I'll say balancing figure. That's the sign for balancing figure. I'll simply say 19,600 minus 6,000 minus 25. That means I can only do 11,100. I can only do 11,100. So that's fine. Now, how many can this 11,500 carry? I will simply come here and I will say 11,100 divided by 6. How many units would that give me? And I will say 11,100 divided by 6 will give me 1,850. 1,850. So that's what I would do instead of 2,500. So I'll come here and I will erase this, and this will become 1,850. Of course, if we multiply 1,850 times 6 to get 11,100. So you see here, trousers is not limited. We can satisfy everything. Jacket was not limited. We can satisfy everything. But we cannot satisfy everything of skirts. We can satisfy what our machine number 1 hours can carry, because you cannot do more than your machine can carry. So that's the answer to this first question. Determine the optimal production plan which Classic Wears Limited should adopt. The optimal plan is to produce 1,250 of trousers, 1,500 of jackets, and 1,850 of skirts instead of 2,500. Your answer is given. That's one. We now go to the second part. which is just 3 marks. Calculate the total profit that will be made if the production plan is adopted. So what's the profit we are going to make? So the B part is profit from optimal production plan. Okay, so this is the profits we want to get here. So we have jack trousers, this jacket, this is skirt. Then we can have total here. So we can say here optimal production units. So we have trousers. How many did we say we are going to make for trousers? 1,250, 1,250. Here is 1,500, and here is 1,850 units. Okay, then we have contribution per unit. Now note here, you are not going to use that contribution per limiting factor. The contribution per limiting factor is just for the purpose of ranking so that we can get our optimal production plan. After that, we dump it. We will use our original contribution per unit, which was 500 here, 700 here, and 780. So we are going to multiply them. You will now see total contribution. So let's do that now. I have 1,850 on my calculator, so I'll just multiply by 780, and I have 1,443,000. 1,443,000. I'll take it from right to left. 15 multiplied by 700, and that gives me 1,050,000. 1,050,000. Then I have 1,250 multiplied by 500. That's 625,000. So I'll have my 625,000, and I'll add everything up. I already have 625,000 here. I will add my 1,050,000 plus 1,443,000. That will give me 3,118. 3,118,000. Can you just give me a minute? Let me reconnect my laptop to the charger. All right, we are back. We have 3,118. Let me make it big here so that because we'll do some operations with it, it's going to be 3,118,000. That's your total contribution. Then we have our fixed costs. So this is fixed costs. We have block A. What is the fixed cost for block A? What's the fixed cost for block A? The fixed cost for block A here is 980,000. So I will come here, 980,000 in bracket, block B. What is the fixed cost for block B? 750,000. 750,000. And for block C, how much is it? 370,000. 370,000. All right, so let's calculate. I have this total contribution here. All I will now do is to remove the fixed cost, 980,000 minus 750,000 minus 370,000. That gives me 1,018,000. 1,018,000. So this is my total profit for the year. So that's my profit for the year. So this question has been thoroughly answered. Profit for the year. So that's the answer there. And there we have our answers that we require. This is a 15 marks question, and I do believe that if you are using 1 minute 30 seconds to answer a question, 1 minute 30 seconds per mark, let's do something here. 1 minute 30 seconds, which is 1.5 minutes per mark, multiplied by 15 marks. You should be doing this for 22.5 minutes, almost 23 minutes. Because if you answer 2 questions here, you should be doing this for 45 minutes. Okay, so we've done the first question on limiting factor. Let's look at another assignment that I gave to you. We are only going to take, okay, so let's edit our book here. May 2018 question 5. May 2018 question 5 has been treated. May 2018 question 5 has been treated. Okay, so we look at another one again. We can look at question number, let's see. I will now be torn between May 2016 and November 2014. Let me take May 2015, May 2016. Let's see. May 2016. Let's see it. May 2016. Question number 4. What's happening here? May 2015. Question number 4. Okay. I will want to defer this question because it will take you a long time for me to solve this. I'll do a separate class for this particular question. So let's leave that for now. I've had issues dealing with this, but if you want me to do it, there is no problem. But let's see simpler question. So I'll go to November 2014, question number 4. November 2014, question number 4. Okay. All right, let's see how this question can be solved. Pali Limited. Pali Limited is the name of the company. It's a cottage manufacturer of aluminium products and specializes in producing kettles and cooking pots. Now, these are the products with annual sales value of, so this is annual sales value of 960 and 144. So these are their sales value. Now, given below are the cost data for each of the products. So this is per unit. This is the cost data of. So we have direct material 200,000, 240. Now, direct wages, we are paying 80 naira per hour. Okay. And in department 1, we have 160,000 paid, 240. Department 2, 80 and 160. Department 3 is 240 and dash. Now, you were not given the hours, you are given the costs and the wages. Okay, these are not cost per unit. Okay, this is department 4 now. In variable cost overhead, we have 40 and 120. Now, the fixed overhead is 1 million. The company allows for an annual 50 weeks of operation at 40 hours per week with the following employees currently engaged in each of the following departments. We have department 1, we have 30, department 2, 16, department 3, 18. You are required to provide your assessment of the company if only one product was to be made given the following circumstances. If only one product were to be made, which product will give the maximum profits and what are the associated problems that could arise? Now, we are also asked which product should be made and the amount of profit per annum, assuming the product uses the same direct materials and there is a shortage of the material with limited supply at a current price to a maximum of 3 million. And we are also asked, determine the product that should be made and the amount of profit per annum, assuming there is a shortage of employee possessing the skills required in Department 2. So how do we tackle this? Please give me a moment. I will join you shortly. So sorry, at a point the meeting was not recording, so but we'll catch up now. We have 12.5 when we divide 3 million by 240. So we have our contribution. So we will now say annual contribution. It will be 12.5 multiplied by how much? Contribution here is 360. The initial contribution we have, which is 360 now, we are going to use 12.5 to multiply it, multiplied by 360. That gives us 4.5 million. So we have our 4.5 million. Then we are going to less our fixed costs. How much is our fixed cost here? How did I get to this place? Our fixed cost here we are told is 1 million per annum. So you remove your 1 million naira per annum, and so your profit will be 3.5 million. So that's your profits. So that's your profit that you are asked to find. Then the next one here, they said, determine the product that should be made and the amount of profit per annum, assuming there is a shortage of employees possessing the skills required in Department 2. So it means that Department 2 is now the limiting factor. Department 2 is now the limiting factor. So what do they have here? In Department 2, okay, we will not say based on limiting factor Department 2 labor. So let's see what was done in Department 2. Direct wages is paid 800 per hour, 80 naira per hour. So you say labor rates, 80 naira per hour. In Department 2, you paid 80,160. Amount paid, this is 80,000. This is 160. Now, number of hours, it will now be this here divided by 80. So, what do we have here? This will be 1,000, and this will be 2,000. Okay? What are we told about labor? And now we are told that the company allows for 50 weeks of 40 hours per week. So let's see. 50 weeks times 40 hours per week. So that will give me what? So I have 50 multiplied by 40, that's 2,000 hours. 2,000 hours. And in departments, so the company allows for annual 50 weeks at 40 hours per week, with the following currently engaged in the department as follows. In department 2, we have 16 people currently engaged. So if one person were to work for 50 weeks, 40 hours per week, so it means that this is already 2,000. Just a moment. So how many hours we didn't need here? 40 hours a week. Okay, let's do something here. 40 times 16. Let's see what it will give us here. 40 times 16, that gives us 640. 40 hours times 16, that gives us 640. Now multiplied by 80, that's 51,200. Sorry, I don't think that's the answer. Okay, let's see how this was solved by ICAN. Let's borrow a leaf from that. Let's see if I can explain their solution. Okay, 1,000, 2,000. Oh, total contribution. Okay, I get it now. So let's see what they did here. Let's see what they did here. We have, this is our total hours. Total hours worked. Then we have our contribution per unit. Contribution per unit. Just say contribution, not per unit. They didn't give us contribution per unit. Contribution This is contribution. How much was our contribution when we calculated? This is 240, this is 360. So this is in Naira. This is 240,000. This is 360,000. Then hours worked. This is 1,000. This is 2,000. So this is contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor, which is hours. So 240 divided by 1,000 will give me 24. So this is in Naira. This one will give me 18. Let's see. 360 divided by 2,000. That should give me 180. This is 240 here. This is going to give me 180. So based on that, 240 is bigger than 180. K2 should be produced. So if K2 should be produced, and we are making 240 in 1 hour. Let's see what we did here. Okay, I see it now. 240 per hour. In department 2, will need 16 people working at 40 hours a week times 50 hours in the whole period, which you will now pay 240 naira. Let's see if that's what they did here. Yes. So 16 people in that department is needed. They will work for 40 hours a week. They have 50 weeks to work, and you are paying them 240 hours per week. No, per hour. What is the contribution that they are earning in per hour? So what happened here? That's the contribution we are making per hour. We have 16 times 40 times 50 times 240. That will give me 7,680,000. 7,680,000. So that's your contribution. Then by the time you less your fixed costs of 1 million, you would have gotten 6,680,000. So this is your profit for kettle. So you see here, the method we use here, we are using total contribution. So you see here, not everything that you are learning in class, that is not how the question will come out. You've learned about contribution per unit method. You are now learning total contribution method. You are not doing that. Contribution per unit and total contribution method. And we are not saying that based on dropping one of the products and just producing one, the first time we did based on contribution, they said which one of them will be profitable. We said based on just contribution, which we did here, pots will be profitable. And so we'll go ahead and make pots after getting the contribution. Now, based on direct material as a limiting factor, which one will be profitable? We know our contribution, we will now need to know contribution per limiting factor. Now, the limiting factor is a material, and we are told that our material was this 200 and this 240, which we brought down here. When we divide, we have 1.2 and 1.5. We ranked it, found out that pots should be made. Still, pot was leading. Then we decide to look for the profit that will be made if only pot was done. We have 3 million maximum to spend. So that is where our contribution will be used. 3 million is what we are going to spend. And if we have to make 240 as our contribution here, to find our contribution index, is like the number of units to be made, 12.5 units to be made. Now, if you are going to make 12.5 units, multiply by this contribution we have here, 360, gives us 4,500,000. When we remove our fixed costs, our profit is 3.5 million. Now, based on Department 2 labor hours, we have labor rate paid at 80 naira. Number of amounts paid, we have 80 and 160. Each of the departments here, the first one was kettle, and this is pot. Then we found out that when we divide it by the labor rate, the hours that they worked, 1,000 and 2,000. So this is their hours worked, hours worked. Now, we want to look for contribution per limiting factor, so contribution per hours. So it gives us 240 and 180. So we look at ranking, kettle should now be produced. And when we look at kettle, we are paying 240 contribution for each hour they work. We have 16 people there who must work 40 hours a week, and they must work 50 weeks in a year. And you are paying them 240. So it means this is our contribution based on this limiting factor. Our fixed cost is 1 million. Our profit for making kettle is going to be 6,680,000. I do believe we understand this. Yes, that's what was done here. Okay, we've done this. Okay, this is the one that we have not done. And I said I'm going to treat a special class for this because I don't want us to get confused in today's class. So it means that we have, which one did we do now? November 2014, question 4. So we've just done this. November 14, question 4. We just did this. So we're going to mark this one out. This one has been done. All right. We would like to see one more. Let's see May 2015, question 6. Let's see how it is. May 2015, question 6. All right, so let's do this. We are told that Marcos Limited manufactures 3 products, and the most important thing here is they operate a marginal costing system. Now, the information has been extracted from the company's record. The product is X, Y, and Z. Look at the units budgeted to be produced and sold. Look at their selling prices. Now, this is requirements per unit. So everything here, apart from the quantity to be sold, are all in per unit. Then fixed overheads. Then look at this one again, is not per unit. So everything I didn't highlight are per unit. Now all 3 products are produced from the same direct material using the same type of machine and labor. So direct material, direct machine, and direct labor. All of them are the same. They can use it for all the 3 products. Now they said direct labor is the key factor. So here, direct labor hours and not labor costs is limited to 3,700, 37,200. So we are told that direct labor is the limiting factor. Direct labor hours is the limiting factor. So there's a difference between direct labor costs and direct labor hours. So we will say direct labor hours equals to limiting factor. All right. We are told to determine the most profitable product mix. So this is May 2015, question 6. May 2015, question 6. So this we write again. ICAN, May 2015, question 6. So the topic is still limiting factor. Limiting factor. That's the topic we are still discussing. And the Marcos Limited is the, so I will say Marcos Limited. So what are we asked to find? We are asked to get the most profitable product mix. The A part, most profitable product mix. So this is what we are looking for, most profitable product mix. All right, so how do we get our most profitable product mix? We'll start with the contribution. We need to get contribution. So this is product, this is X, Y, and Z. Then we have selling price. Our selling price here is 120, 110, and 100. 120, 110, 100. Then we look at our variable cost, direct material costs. Direct material costs. Now, how do we get direct material costs? This is direct material cost per kg. So we need direct material cost per unit. So we'll say, first of all, direct material cost per kg. Okay, direct material cost per kg, we have 88888. So I'll let me just underline this one here. We have 8, this is in naira, 8 and 8. Then we have direct material required, this is in kg. Direct material required 5, 3 and 4. We have 5, 3 and 4. So when we multiply, let's double underline this so that you not think I'm dividing. When we multiply this, so I will call here, let me call this one A, let me call this one B, let me call this one C, let me call this one D. So this is direct material cost per unit, which is what we need in naira. When we multiply 5 times 8, this is going to give me 40. 8 times 3, this is going to give me 24. 8 times 4, 32. So this is the direct material cost per unit. The next one now, we've done with this. Okay, we've done this, we've used this. All right, now let's go to direct labor. So this is E, direct labor cost per hour. It's going to be one price, direct labor cost per hour, or direct labor rate per hour, which is 444 each. So let's take it that we've used it, 44444. So this is in naira. So this is in naira. Then this is F, direct labor required. This is in hours per unit. Direct labor required per unit, also per unit. This is in hours. So we have that is this 4, 3 and 2. 4, 3 and 2. 4, 3 and 2. Like we did before, we are going to multiply. When we multiply, 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8. So this is G here, direct labor cost per unit. And now this is in naira. Then our H here, the one we have not used here, is variable overheads. Variable overhead here, 14, 26, and 16. 14, 26, and 16. Let me write them. 14, 26, and 16. So this is variable overhead cost per unit. This is also in naira. 14, 26, and 16. We will ignore the fixed cost for now because they operate marginal costing and we are looking for contribution. So fixed cost does not come in here. So we'll come here and double underline this now. We will now say this is H. I is going to be contribution per unit. So our contribution per unit is going to be A minus D, D, G, and H. D, G, and H. When you add this together, you minus it from A. So that's what we are going to do now. D, G, and H. So let's start with the first one here. I want to go down up, or let me go D is 40 here. G is 16 and H is 14. I have 70 here. I want to minus 70 from 120. That gives me 50. So here, this is going to give me 50. So this is my contribution. The next one here is D, G, and H. My D here is 24 plus 12 plus 26. That gives me 62, which I'll remove from 110. And that will give me 48. 48. So I will write here 48. Then the last one, D, G, and H, 32 plus 8 plus 16, 56, which I'm taking out from 100. And that gives me 44. So this gives me 44. So this is in Naira. So your contribution per unit, you've just done it as the number I. Now the next thing here is our limiting factor. So we have identified that labor hours is our limiting factor. So where can we get our labor hours per unit? Labor hours per unit. Direct labor required per unit in hours. I will come here. I'll repeat that, which I have in F. In F, I will come down here and bring F. Direct labor hours per unit. And I'll say limiting factor. This is our limiting factor. We got it from F, 4, 3, and 2. So I will say 4, 3, and 2. So let me not double underline this because I'm going to use division. All right, so when I divide, this is I, the next one should be J. This one is contribution per limiting factor. So This is going to be I divided by F. So let's do it again here. I have 44 in my calculator. 44 divided by 2 gives me 22. So this is 22. I will do it from left to right, or right to left rather. 48 divided by 3, that gives me 16. And the last one, 50 divided by 4, that gives me 12.5. It's 12.5. After that, this is J. My K will be ranking or rank. This now will become first. This will become second. And this will become third. That's our ranking. We are ranking based on contribution per limiting factor. Remember, our question is asking us the most profitable product mix. So now we are now going to production schedule. Production schedule. Optimal product mix. So you will have your rank, you have the products. So let's do that now. This is first, second, and third. The product is supposed to be XYZ. Now this is ZYX, Z, Y, and X. Okay, so we will now need the units. Units demand. Units demanded. Let's go to our question to look at the units demanded. So this is units budgeted to be produced and sold. This is units to be produced and sold. Okay, so 3,4, 6,000, and 3,6. 3,4, 6,000, 3,6. But note that you are not sure of these figures. Now you say labor hours, which is the limiting factor per unit, which is labor hours. Labor hours for Z is 2, 3, and 4. Oh, did I write this thing wrong? 3, 4, yes. 6,000, 3, 6. 3, 4, 6,000, good. It's correct. Now this is 2, 3, and 4. I will have my 2, 3, and 4. Then I will say total labor hours. And I will come here and I will put the cap. And they said limited to 37,200. And I'll put my 37,200 here. So we'll now check. We have for Z 3,4 multiplied by 2 That will give me 68. That will give me 6,800, right? Now, 6,800, we have a total of 37,200 to fulfill. If we are to remove 6,008 from 37,200, we are left with 30,400. No problem. Let's see. The next one here is 6,000. 6,000 multiplied by 3, that gives me 18,000. Now 18,000 is smaller. 18,000 is smaller than 30,400. So we'll put our 18,000, meaning that this can go, this can go. Now, if 18,000 has joined, if 18,000 is what we need, and we have left 30,400, we have to remove 18,000 from it. That means we have left 12,400. 12,400 should be left. So now let's see. 12,400 should be left. If we are to do 3,600 multiplied by 4, you know it's more than 12,4. We have 14,4. So that shows you that you cannot do the whole of 36. So what do? You just come here and put 12,400. My screen is blocked. Now 12,400, that's your balancing figure. So what do? You will say 12,400 divided by 4 should give you what to produce. 12,400 divided by 4 should give me 3,100. So you are producing 3,100 instead of 3,600. So you go here, because you have written it in pencil, you can easily clean it off. Because you have written it in pencil, you can go here, 3,100 times 4 will give you this. Now this is the first part of the question, done A part. Now the B part, prepare a profitability statement for the product mix. So you are now going to do the B part. Profit statement for product mix. So we have your X, Y, Z, then we have total. Now we have quantity. Quantity here is this mix here. Our X was limited to 3,1. This is 3,100. Y and Z, we produce what they need, 6,003.4. 6,003.4. And that's quantity. Then we have contribution per unit. We'll go and take the original contribution which we got here, which is I. Never this one. Never what we got in J. This one we got in J was for the purpose of ranking and to prepare our production schedule. After that, this contribution is dumped. but we will always use our contribution per unit if we are working in a marginal costing operation. So this is 50, 48, and 44. So this is 50, 48, and 44. So here is in Naira. So this is total contribution. It's also in Naira. So we'll bring our calculator again now. I have 3 1 in my calculator multiplied by 50. That will give me 155. So I have my 155,000. Then I have 6,000 multiplied by 48,000 by 48. I have 288,000. Then the next one is 3,400 multiplied by 44, and I get 149,600. 149,600. When I add all of these, I'll be getting my contribution. That gives me 592,600. 592,600. Are we giving fixed costs? Let's see. We are not giving fixed costs. We are told that fixed cost is 20 naira per unit. 20 naira per unit. Now, what do we know about fixed costs? Our fixed cost is fixed in total terms, right? But it's going to be variable in per unit. How did we get this 20 naira per unit? It is based on previous sales that we estimated it. Normally, it's going to be done using our overhead rate, which is overhead absorption rate, because it's most likely absorption costing. And you would have done that using your maximum sales possible. So your maximum sales possible is the number of sales that you cannot go above. So your fixed cost per unit was determined from your maximum cost per unit. Now let me give an example. I can decide that the Zoom I use in the Zoom I have here can take, let's say, 100 people, for example, although it can take more than that. And I spend 16,000 in the purchase of Zoom license, and it can take 100 people. I will now say the fixed cost that I will allocate if I want to charge per unit, I will divide my 16,000 divided by 100 is going to be 160. So 160 naira is what I will be charging per head. So that is how it's gotten. Now, your fixed cost will not change if you decide not to do 8,000 and you want to produce 3,600. Your fixed cost will not change because your fixed cost will be fixed irrespective of the units produced. So whether you decide not to go and produce 10,000, you want to produce 6,000, your fixed cost is gotten from this 10,000. The same thing, if you want to produce 3, 4, and Your fixed cost is from 3,100. So from 3,000, this is where your fixed cost will be gotten. So look at what we are going to do now. We will say this is 80, 8,000, 10,000, and 3,000. All of them having 2020. So this 2020 naira is gotten from this 8,000, 10,000, 3,000, 8, 10, 3. So I'll come here, fixed cost. We say 80 times, is it 20? Sorry, it's 20 naira. It's 20 naira per unit times 8 is to 10 is to 3. So 8,000, 10,000, 3,000. So what you do, 8,000 times 2 is 16,000. Okay, 160,000 because it's times 20. 10,000 times 20, 200,000. 3,000 times 20, 3 times 2 is 6, 600,000. Sorry, it's 60,000. 3,000 times 2 is 6,000, 60,000. So when you add them up, you have 160 plus 200 plus 60. That will give you 420,000. That will give you 420,000 here. 420,000. So when you minus this from 592,600, sorry, beg your pardon. I already have 592,600. Now let me minus 420,000. I have 172,600. 172,600. Now this is my profit. This is my profit. Now that's what the question is asking you, to produce a profitability statement for the product mix. So we've done May 2015. May 2015, question 6. May 2015, question 6. This is what we have just done. Just done this. I'm going to take it out from here. May 2015, question 6. We've just done this. So for those of us who have not submitted your assignment, you now have only 2 now to attempt. May 2016, question 2, you attempt it, and November 2018, question 1. In our next class, we will not be discussing limiting factor anymore. We'll be discussing a different topic from limiting factor. But maybe I will need to have to give you some hints on how you may want to approach these questions. This May 2016, the way to approach this question, we'll read it and see what we can do for this question for the time being. Let's see what we can do. The management of Bengals Agro Limited is planning for the next season's cultivation and has asked you as a management accountant to recommend the optimal mix of vegetable production for the coming year. Now look at the things that was given to you. We have cabbage and spinach, tomato and carrots. Look at the area occupied in acres, the yield occupied per acre in tons. Now you are giving your selling price in tons. Just like selling price per unit. Selling price per unit. So your tons is like your units. Now you are giving your variable cost per acre. Per acre. So now you are seeing here selling price per ton, 1 ton. This is how much you sell. Yeah, you are giving you your yields per ton, yields per acre. So in 1 acre, you have this ton. And this is the whole area that you need to sell your cabbage. Your fertilizers are given to you, all of them in per acre. And you are told that your fixed overhead is 62 million. Now, look at the condition now. The land area used for the production of carrots, so carrots and tomatoes, can be used for either crops. So I said carrots and tomatoes. So it means I will change this color now. Carrots, sorry, let me change this so that you will understand. Carrots and tomatoes belong to one side that you can be used to plant either crops. So it means that these tomatoes you plant here, you can plant it in where you have tomatoes, you can also plant it in where you have carrots. So it means that if tomatoes will do better than carrots, instead of planting tomatoes and carrots, since tomatoes can do better, you can plant tomatoes in that boundary of tomatoes and carrots because you want to maximize. Then I'll change the color here again. They said, but not for spinach and cabbage. And the land area used for cabbage and spinach can be used for either crops, but not for tomatoes and carrots. So it means that you can decide that you want to look at either cabbage and spinach, which one will do better. Let's say you say cabbage can do better. You can plant cabbage in where you have cabbage and spinach. Then you look at tomatoes and carrots and you say maybe carrots can do better. You plant carrots in these two areas. So you'll be looking at for each side, which one will you be bringing? That's how the question is flowing. So let's go. Somebody is asking that is not seeing the share screen. I will stop sharing and share again so that you can see the screen. Please confirm now that you can see the screen. I'm also using another system so that I'll be seeing what the audience is seeing. So if you are not seeing the screen, I should not also see it in my second device. If you can see it, please can you confirm you can see? Okay, you can see now. All right. Now, we are saying that the land is being divided into two. We are dividing it into two. What we have for cabbage, now these are the boundaries. Cabbage and spinach can share the same, cabbage and spinach can share the same boundary, but they cannot share the boundary occupied by tomatoes. You cannot share the boundary occupied by tomatoes and carrots. So that's just it. So we share the boundaries. Now let's look. In order to provide an adequate market service, the management must produce at least, this is list, not lease. They said this is list, L-E-A-S-T, list, 70 tons. So 70 tons each of cabbage and spinach. So here the least thing to produce is 70 tons. So I'll come here. This is 70 tons. That's a list. 70 tons. Then here, 63 tons. 63 tons each of tomatoes and carrots. So I'll come here, 63 tons. 63 tons. How did I put 1,000? 63 tons. Okay, so 63 and 70 tons. So I'll just make this one tons. All right, then we are asked now, present the profit statement for the current year. So how do you produce a profit statement for the current year? So let's try our hands now. Let's try our hands now. This is ICAN. And we are doing May 2016, question 4. We bring it nearby. May 2016, 2016, question 4. What's the name of the company? Bengus Agro Limited. All right. Now we are asked to bring profit statement for the year. Profit statement for the year. Profit statement for the year. So how do you do your profit statement? So I will need now to bring this information: cabbage, spinach, tomatoes, and carrots. Cabbage, spinach, tomatoes, carrots. Cabbage, spinach, tomato, carrots, and I'll call this on total. Okay, so I have my area occupied in acres. Area occupied in acres. So I have 30, 4, 30, 24, 36, 30. 30, 24, 36, 30. 30, 24, 36, 30. If we are to add everything together, what do we have? 30 plus 34 plus 36 plus 30. We have 130 acres. We have 130 acres total. Now, in 1 acre, what is your yield? Yield per acre. Yield per acre. Yield per acre here, 17.5 and 14. Let me write down first. 17.5, this is 14. Then we have 15.75 and 21. 15.75, 21. We don't need to add total because there are different yields. Acres are acres, that's why we can add them. But yield for cabbage is different from yield for spinach, so you don't need to add that. So you multiply, then you will now say total yield per area. Total yield per area, which is in acres. Okay, no, total yield in area, which is in tons. Your total yields per area, or just say total yield, is still per area. Total yield in tons. You multiply and let's see. We have 30 multiplied by 17.5. That gives me 525. 525. We have 24 multiplied by 14. That gives me 336. 336. Then we have 36 multiplied by 15.75. That gives me 567. 567. Then of course we have 30 multiplied by 21. 630. 630. Need to write this 30 well. This is 630. All right, so we have total yield. Total yield. So that is in tons. Selling price per tons. So I will have selling price per ton. So how much do we have here? This is 60,000. I'm going to do something. I'm going to put 3 zeros. I'm going to, let's see if I can put 3 zeros here. So this is 60,000. This is 75. This is 90 and 81. 75, 90, 81. 75, 90, and 81. Okay, so this is selling price. Okay, what I will now do here, let me underline this first. Then I will say less variable costs. I now have fertilizer, 24, 20, 36, 32. 24, 20, 36, 32. 24, 20, 36, and 32. So I will say this is fertilizer, so seeds, 12, 16, 24 and 20. 12, 16, 24, 20. 12, 16, 24, and 20. And we are calling it seed. Call it seed. We go down again. Pesticides. 20, 12, 16, and 20. 20, 12, 16, 20. 20, 12, 16, 20. We call it pesticide. Then the last one, direct wages. 320, 360, 400, 456. I remember 456 here. I remember 400, 360, 320. So this is direct wages. So I am having contribution per acre, contribution per acre, that is going to be in tons. So what I have here, I will start with just a moment. This is my selling price, and I'll minus all of these ones here. So let me start with this 60. 60 minus 24 minus, wait a minute, this is 60, okay, direct wages, all right. Oh, this is not going to give us negative answers. This is variable cost per acre. This is selling price per ton. Okay, selling price per ton. Okay, the way I will approach it now, this is selling price per ton. This is variable cost per acre. So I'm not going to get contribution here. Let's underline this one. We'll come back to it. All of these figures here, let's add them together. We have 24 plus 12 plus 20 plus 320. That gives me, this is 376. 376. I have 20 plus 16 plus 12 plus 360. I have 408. 408. I have 36 plus 24 plus 16 plus 400. That gives me 476. Then I have 32 plus 20 plus 20 again plus 456. And that gives me 528. 528. So what I will do now, I will need to clean the bracket that I used in each of them. I'll need to clean the bracket in each of them. Wow, how did I clean 360? I'm going to write it back. So I'm removing this bracket. So that you won't be asking, how did we get positive figures when we are doing negative things? Okay, so we have this is our variable costs per what? Per acre. Variable cost per acre. Variable cost per acre. So now let's do something here. Revenue. So what's our revenue here? We have selling price per ton. So what we are doing is this selling price per ton, which is 60, multiplied by this number of tons, multiplied by this area. That is what we are going to be doing. This multiplied by this. This multiplied by this. So we have 60 multiplied by 525. 60 multiplied by 525. That gives me 31,500. That will give me 31,500. Of course, there is a 3 zeros here. Then the next one is 75 multiplied by 336. 25,200. We have our 25,200. Then we have 90 multiplied by 567. 5130. We have our 5130. Is that what is it? 51,01030. So 51,030. 030. Then we have 81. 81 multiplied by 630. And that will give me 51,030 What did I do? Then let me do this one again. 90 multiplied by 567. Wow. 90 multiplied by 567 give me 5130. And I will check again just to be doubly sure. 81 multiplied by 630, 5130. So I'll write it again just to be sure that I did the right thing. 51030. Add everything together. 51030 plus 51030 plus 25,200 plus 31,500. That gives you 158,760. 158,760. Then your variable costs. So we said our revenue is revenue per acre. Our revenue is revenue per acre because we have done selling price per ton multiplied by the yield per ton, which was multiplied by the area, which is in acre. So our selling price, our sales revenue is in per acre. Our variable cost now is also in acres. So these are our variable costs here. I will repeat them down here. This is going to be 376. This is going to be 408. And this is going to be 476. And this is going to be 528. This is going to be our contribution per acre. So what we'll do here, let me use the second calculator to add all of these. This is 376 plus 408 plus 476 plus 528. Here I have 1788. So I can come here 1788. Let me just do this last one here. I already have 158,760 minus 1788. So there will be 156,972, 156,972. That is what here will be. Let me do these other ones individually. 31,500 minus 376, 31,124, 31,124. Then we have 25,200 minus 408. That gives me 24,792. The third one, 51,030 minus 476, 50,554. And the last one there, 51,030 minus 528. That will give me 5502. 5502. And of course, here we have our contribution in acres. Then we are told Our fixed cost is 62 million. Our fixed cost is 62 million. So you will say fixed cost, my screen is blocked now, 62 million. So I'll put this one here in 3 zeros too. This is also in 3 zeros. So 62 million should give me 62,000. So when I remove 62,000 from this figure here, 62,000 gone, I have 94,972. 94,972. Now this is your profit statement for the year. So we have done the A part for you, the A1 part for you. So you will do well to do the other parts. It is possible we might visit this question and complete it before we take the next topic so that we don't leave anything hanging. So what have we done? We've done this is May 2016 question. May 2016, this is question 4. May 2016 question 4. I will just put a small mark here to show that we have not finished it. So we have not done this. May 2016 question 4. We have not finished it. We have not done this to the end. Okay, so far so good. We've solved about 3 questions on limiting factor. So limiting factor should not be much of a problem for you, but just know that limiting factor questions, as you see in the exam type questions, are always mixed with other kind of questions. You can see limiting factor can also be mixed with relevant costing. It can be mixed in different ways. Like as we see in that question number 1 of November 2018. November 2018, question number 1 is a limiting factor question, but there is also certain things you need to observe. This is a question number 1 question that will take a lot of time. So as I said before, a separate class to handle this will be done. So thank you so much for coming to class today. The resources used in this class will be sent to you via email so that you can avail yourself of the opportunity to solve more questions. Thank you so much. I will see you again in the next class this week.